Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Factorio tutorial, we're going to be covering how to expand our mining setup. Now, if you guys will have been with me for the last video, you will have noticed that we've expanded our smelting setup by a ton. We actually have 2 iron lines and 1 copper line. And because of this, the amount of ore that we're able to consume and turn into the plates of either type is not able to keep up. We actually need a lot more mining to keep up with both these smelting systems. Obviously more so for the iron than for the copper. Now previously we've been running off of 4 electric mining drills, and so today the new setup that I'm going to be going over will use quite a lot more than just 4, and it should cover this entire patch of ore, and we do this for a couple reasons, but we'll get into that as soon as we build the structure. So today I've got 2 main setups for how to improve your mining. The first one is a space efficient setup to where it's not very compact, but it does use up the entire ore patch evenly, and the second one is more focused towards getting as much ore out of the ore patch as you can per second, and both of these were created by myself, but they're pretty basic. There's nothing really special to them. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up the more space efficient setup on the copper ore, because obviously we don't need as much copper as we do iron, and I'll be making the one that produces a lot more. I'll be setting that up on the iron setup. So let's start with the space efficient setup. So the whole point of the space efficient mining setup is so that you maximize the space as much as you can. Alright, so this is what our space efficient setup would look like when we're working with this ore patch. Now of course you guys will notice that each of these are 2 spaces apart. This is because the outline or the area that these can mine from is 1 space around each of these. So by setting them 2 spaces apart, it ensures that every piece of ore will eventually be mined up from this ore patch. Now of course this isn't as efficient as it could be in some ways. For example, this electric mining drill only has these 2 patches of ore to take from, and as a result it only has 272 pieces of ore that it can mine overall. Now this isn't much of an issue, because when it comes down to it, when these run out of ore to mine, we can just run over here and pick them up and then use them somewhere else, because of course eventually we're going to run out of the 311,000 ore that we have here, so we will eventually need to move somewhere else to gather some more ore, and when we do that we can reuse these electric mining drills. So something else you guys should consider before hooking up all of these transport belts is balancing the line. Now I counted these up earlier, and we actually have 24 of these on this entire ore patch, and what we're going to have to start worrying about is how many items are we putting on each side of this transport belt, because if we try to put them all on the right side, it's going to fill up the right side a lot more than it's going to fill up the left side, and that's actually going to be wasting half of this belt. So generally what I like to do is I like to find the halfway point, or roughly the halfway point, and put half of these electric mining drills on one half of them on the other. Now this is a really good way of balancing it, because hopefully if you have half on the right, half on the left, it should keep the track nicely full, or at least evenly balanced. Also, you guys should start thinking about how to arrange these belts so that you're using the least amount of track, because track of course is kind of expensive when you use it in bulk. So I find that one of the best ways to arrange these track is to point them in towards each other. That way you can have a track like this, and you don't have to like run a track down both sides like that. So I'm going to hook this up, and we're going to try our best to balance it, and really balancing each of these ore fields is going to be different depending on the layout of it. So you don't have to worry too much about getting it perfect, but it's always good to try to balance it as much as you can. Alrighty guys, so this is what it looks like to have our ore field properly balanced, or at least as much as we can right now. Right now we should have 12 on each side of the track. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and those all place onto the right side of the track. So you guys will notice these ones will all feed out onto the right, those ones will all feed out onto the right, and of course these top 2 place directly onto the right side. Now we should have 12 that go onto the left side as well. So this one is going onto the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As you guys can see, these ones deposit onto the left, those deposit onto the left, and all of these ones up here deposit onto the left. This one, of course, I had to do some more complicated track work. It's obviously very simple and it's kind of wasteful, but in order to balance it properly, I had to put in a little extra work here and there to make sure that we have 12 on one side, 12 on the other. This should keep the ore consumption pretty balanced from the right and the left side of this ore patch, so that neither side gets used up faster than the other. Something else that you can also do has to do with splitters. So you know how splitters split up one half of the ore on one side and one half of the ore on the other. So what we can do is we can create something like this, to where it'll take half of it and it'll place it on the left, and then we can place another one down here. It'll take half of it and then place it on the right. This is another way to kind of balance your track. It's not exactly perfect. There are some better ways to do some balancing, but this is sort of a rudimentary way to kind of balance your track as well. So let's hook this up with electricity. Thankfully for this setup, electricity is pretty simple. You just kind of place these small electric poles wherever you can, pretty much one for every 2 of these electric mining drills. It's not the most space efficient, but it does get the job done. So as you guys will notice, as our track fills up nicely here, you'll notice that the left side of the track is being used up more than the right side of the track. That's because the right side has to wait for this ore to get out of the way. And because of that, it's actually probably better to reverse the order that we have these balancers. Notice this one is favoring the right side, whereas the other one is favoring the left side. It's probably better to end off with favoring the left side than it is to favor the right side. The left side is going to be getting more action anyway, because of the fact that almost exclusively the left side will be taking the ore. And actually, I'm going to remove this balancer here. I think we really only need one of these. That's something that you guys can experiment with, and hopefully you guys will be able to figure out the best setup for your unique situation, depending on how you have things organized. Alright, so that's our space efficient setup, and as you guys can see, we're using the minimum amount of electric drills that we can to wholly cover the patch. Next, we're going to move on to our production efficient setup, and obviously we need a lot more iron produced here. And so this setup is going to be almost exactly the same. We're still going to be trying to cover the entirety of the track. The only difference is that we're going to be placing these electric mining drills in as compact a setup as we can, as in we're trying to fit as many of them next to each other as we can. This will produce the maximum amount of iron ore from the iron patch that we have here. Alrighty guys, here's our more compact setup. By using this setup, we should be able to produce a lot more iron ore than we were producing copper ore. So this is our entire setup, and it should be decently balanced. I think with this one we ended up having about 43, so there's about 21 and 22 miners on each side, and I think the right side had a little bit more than the left side, so it's not quite perfectly balanced, but it's pretty close. So once again, once we have this all hooked up, this is about roughly center, we can get this ore piped into our smelting area. As you guys will quickly see, this is plenty to get our smelting area fully running and saturated with all the ore that they need. Alrighty guys, so these are pretty much the two setups that I came up with. This one is more compact, so it produces a lot more, whereas the other one is a lot more space efficient. It uses up less materials, and both of them should evenly use up the ore patch so that when they're all done mining, there should be nothing left. So hopefully you guys have learned something about how or what the proper ways to expand your mining setup are. I would highly suggest that you guys try to stick with a highly organized setup, something like this, to where it's easy to manage and it's also kind of visually pleasing. So that's also something that's kind of nice and not necessarily important, but definitely satisfying to work with inside of Factorio. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I think in the next episode we're going to be going over power consumption. Right now we're doing pretty good, but when we do start to craft some more things, we're going to have trouble with our 4 steam engine setup here. When I was recording the last video, I actually had to expand our power setup manually at the time. So the next video I'll just be showing you guys how to supersize this, which should be enough power to last you into mid to end game. And actually, because the setup is expandable, you can just keep expanding it to the point where you can expand it infinitely, and that's pretty much your only source of power. So anyway guys, hopefully you stick around for that. I'm excited to make that video for you guys as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.